Hi guys, this is Wise Dragon Comics. Long time no post. Um, I'm coming at you guys with a manga practice tutorial video, and the thing I'm going to discuss is the overuse of gray tones and mid tones, and why you need to stop doing that, and a couple of ways on how to stop doing that, and basically by using heavier contrasting or different kinds of inking techniques. So one thing I've noticed is a lot of people tend to use gray tones and screen tones to almost color a character or just to add something to it, when you really shouldn't do that so much, because it starts to make your drawings actually like your manga. It starts to make things like blend together, like it makes your panel pages, as you keep flipping through them, it begins to make them all kind of meld together and blend together a bit, and it becomes boring, and it's very static. And when people are reading it, they will subconsciously lose interest, and before they even get to the end, they may already technically have tapped out, and before they know it, they're just actually just flipping pages just to get to the end. So and what I mean is, I'm gonna do a well, let me do this in a marker. Yeah, somebody will have their drawing. I'm just gonna and by the gray tone or mid tone overload is when they're when somebody is usually doing their work digitally, what they'll end up doing is this is gonna act as the screen tone that somebody would apply. And what they'll end up doing is they'll just add it to random parts. Well, not random, they'll just add it to a bunch of parts of the character, and they'll add it to their clothes, and it's actually just supposed to be used as an enhancement effect or a topping, but they keep treating it like they need to color person with it. So rather than just focus on like shadowed areas, they'll end up putting it all over them. So they'll use it for the shirt, and this is what is really weird. They'll use it for, like, let's say the character's shirt. I said that twice. And then they'll even use the same screen tone gradient effect on the character's neck, and then they'll even start putting it on the chin, or like the side of the face, I mean. Or they'll actually put it on the chin, and basically they're overusing the same screen tone effect on the character. They'll even add like an effect on the nose, maybe something on the eye. And they'll just use the same screen tone and do that. If you do this a lot, especially if you're using the same exact screen tone number, and by number I mean like the dot versus the space number, when you're actually in like Clip Studio or Photoshop, if you keep using the same screen tone gradient, whatever they call them, it begins to, like I said, it begins to make everything, it begins to make your drawings, your panels, and the people in your panels, they begin to look the same, they blend together, and subconsciously, like I said, the person who's reading it they'll become bored without really realizing it, and you'll actually lose the engagement on the reader. So what I made this video for is to actually talk about different techniques that you can use instead of actually relying on gray tone, like the screen tones all the time, and overusing mid-tones. Sometimes they won't even use the screen tones. They'll use like this grayish kind of color, and it'll be like on everything. It'll even be they'll even make it the floor, they'll even make it on the walls, and it'll be the same exact screen tone color for everything. And I'll just look at it and I'm just like, it begins to look like everything's blending together. But like I said, there's different techniques that you can use to show some type of like effect on something without having to rely on screen tone. So it also looks better when you use more pen-like techniques. So what I mean is, let's just kind of copy that same drawing. So we had the guy on his head. So instead of just abusing screen tone and putting the same screen tone gradient on like everything, what you can do is you can just use different techniques. Like you can actually do hatch lines, either single hatch or cross hatch. Hatch lines is lines that look like this. Or you can use crosshatch, which is usually more popular to do. Or you can actually do something which I do because it's quick, is a more something akin to like a scribble. You can even vary the scribble by moving it slower so that it appears darker, and then giving it more space when you want it lighter. You could actually even use a cross hatch scribble if you wanted to. But a cross hatch scribble is kind of a bit more messy looking, so I tend not to do that. But the scribble is one of my favorite techniques to do, mainly because I don't have to focus on neatness like cross hatching. So I may do a concentrated scribble, or I may just do this, and then I'll apply it to this character so you can see. So what I'll do is similar to this. I'll actually make guide spots, or more or less we have this here. So, which I'm going to show you how I would apply these effects. So, if I were to use the single hatch line, and you can actually make these in any direction you want. It's just that I just tend to do it like this because it's just easier the way my wrist flows. But you can do it any way you want to. First, we're just going to do hatch lines. So there's that. Then we can do the cross hatch. I messed that up a little bit. so you can see the crosshatch. And then we'll do the scribble. Switching pens real quick. And then we'll do a concentrated scribble. And then we'll even do the crosshatch, the cross scribble. So as you can see, I use all of the techniques for here, just here. And this way, it has more of a visual flair because it's slightly different rather than using just a screen tone over the same screen tone over everything. Now, this isn't exactly screen tone, of course, but when you're in your digital program, you'll understand just how flat the screen tone will be if you were to do that and put it over like the whole drawing, or just the gray tone and just put it over something, and when it just sits there and looks at it over when it's on a character, it'll just look really boring and flat. So you actually want to have some type of difference there. And you can even do it over clothes, but one thing that you shouldn't do is you shouldn't use tones or screen tones repeatedly as a coloring device all the time. Sometimes if you are actually something is like darker, then yeah, it's good to do. But if you consistently use screen tones to color things, then it'll actually also once again start to look flat. So sometimes what you should actually get in more of the habit of doing is just coloring things in as different forms of black. So that's more of a conversation about contrast, but I'll touch on that in another video. But what I mean is, instead of relying on tone all the time, you can ink something in all black, but by giving it a different kind of line through it, you can have different effects for it. So let's say you wanted something to appear dark but not quite black. You could just take a brush and basically I'm actually doing hatch lines. And then you would come to whichever side you decide you want your light source being on, you will come to the other side and just double up between the lines. And this is just a brush pen. Now, of course, this is a little bit messy, so you'd be a bit cleaner with it when you use it, or you can just clean it up in your digital editing program, or with whiteout, whatever you do to correct your inking mistakes. So now, as you can see, this gives the illusion that this is a shirt with some type of dark color on it, but not necessarily black per se, or it may be perceived as black. But there's one thing about manga is there are certain things that are actually colored in black, but when it comes out, either the anime comes out or when they do a color page, you'll actually see it might be just dark blue. It might not actually be black. So you can portray a dark color without relying on screen tones or gray tones, because like I said, if you overuse them, it gets boring. You can actually just make a different kind of effect, and it'll have more visual flair. It'll kind of spice things up for the person that's reading, because you do want to show and not necessarily tell. But these kinds of techniques keep people a little bit more invested on a subconscious level. So while you're working on, while you're working on keeping them engaged on a conscious level, you can also have little things going which will work on them on a subconscious level. So you can have a well-rounded way of keeping them enveloped in your story and your art. And this is for manga. I mean, I guess you could probably apply the same thing for American comics per se, but I don't really draw American comics. I just draw manga. So that's basically the lesson I was talking about. And as you can see, side by side, one of them looks ridiculously better than the other one does. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video. So, while you're drawing, sometimes you got to figure things out. So I like to say, feel it out, figure it out. But, guys, stay focused, stay drawing, live bravely, live gracefully, live blazingly. Peace